Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to part 7. I can hardly believe it of this astrology course for beginners. If you haven't done all the previous 6 parts, then this one will seem a little bit random, but hey, you might still get something from it. Okay, so last time we talked about Mercury and Venus. And today I want to talk about Mars, and then I'm going to talk about a sort of a more psychological aspect of astrology, which really applies to the planets that are going to then come in the next parts. So Mars. So Mars, most of us know, is a sort of masculine type of energy, and it actually has what we associate as the sign for men, as its glyph, the circle with I'm not sure which way around it is for you now. With the anyway, for me it's got a circle with an arrow sticking out of it. And so do have a look in your chart if you don't already know, and see where your Mars is. Because the sign that your Mars is in gives a really good indication of what your energy is like in terms of getting things done. Because Mars is all about our active energy. It's how we approach things, it's how we action things, it's how we do things. It's a very action orientated energy. So, whereas you remember last week Venus was more about how we receive the things that we love, hopefully. So do have a look at the sign of your Mars and think about whether that sort of corresponds with how you tend to do things. Yeah, so do you have an earth sign Mars that is quite practical, or methodical, or do you have an air sign Mars that is quite flighty and flitty and quite in the head? Or do you have a water sign Mars that is more about flowing and nurturing and holding and sort of like wanting to work at a sort of an emotional level? Or do you have a fire sign Mars that is like, yay, let's go, come on, we're going to go and do this and let's go and do that, and that sort. So the next part of this workshop, there are like 3 layers to the way that anything in astrology expresses, it has the ability to express itself. Okay, and it's a bit like, when a situation happens in your life and you have a choice as to how you deal with it, at what level you choose to deal with it. Now, I choose to describe these as the asleep level, the waking level, and the awake level. So when we function at an asleep level, it's like we have no awareness of having any responsibility for anything that goes on in our lives. Everything happens to us. And we will all have something in our chart that is probably still functioning at the asleep level, however awake we are. The waking level, we're like, maybe I did have some role to play in whatever happened there. Maybe I did have some responsibility about what happened. And the awake level goes, okay, I want to work with the universe. I realize that me when it's all about me, when it's all about I-centered, that that I'm not really working with the universe. I'm not really contributing maybe as much to the greater whole as I could. So it's about starting to see things at a very universal, unitive level. So when I'm talking astrology to people, I tend to at least describe the asleep level and the very awake level, because it's useful to understand how much we're working at each of those levels, okay? Because it's only when it's fed back to us, when it's reflected to us, actually I may be handling this at a very asleep level. It's only when somebody points it out and you recognize your own behavior that you can go, oh yeah, okay, I get what you're saying, okay, yeah. And then we can start to talk about what the awake level looks like, because usually it's just a quick transition. It's like once we understand that we operating at an asleep level, it's like we understand we're waking up, and then it's relatively easy to move into that very awake level. So when I talk astrology in general, when I'm looking at like what's coming up in astrology, I nearly always look at the very awake level. And when I'm looking at someone's chart, first of all, I tend to see things at the very awake level, because I believe that where we put our attention, where we put our focus, is what grows. I think there's a saying, isn't there? I don't know. I can't remember it is, but the way I put it is, where I put my attention is what grows. So, yeah, so the next planets, in the next lesson, we're going to look at Jupiter and Saturn. And we'll start to look at these at the different levels of how we use them. And when we finish with Saturn, we've looked at all what I call the tool planets. So these are all the planets that we have control over, if you like. It's a bit like we are in control of our feelings. We are in control of how we communicate. We are in control of what we love. We are in control of how we act. And you'll see with the Jupiter and the Saturn that we are in control of those energies. But once we move beyond Saturn to the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, then we are no longer in control. It's about working with, and this is where the three levels become really important. Okay, so love you all. Thank you for watching, and talk to you soon.